On 19 February 1943. George S. Patton stood at Kasserine Pass facing ruin. Cold wind cut across Tunisia. As shattered American units pulled back, under fire, exhausted. Patton watched reports arrive, each page bleeding failure. Each hour shrinking hope. Tonight, the defeat threatened more than pride. It threatened Allied credibility. And it threatened lives, everywhere. From Washington to London, the news traveled fast. And enemies listened closely, with interest. Kasserine Pass exposed raw leadership, confused doctrine. And an army unready for war, suddenly. Patton felt the weight personally. Because he believed discipline saved men, not comfort, ever. He had seen chaos before, in France and Mexico, and he hated its cost, deeply. Now the American army bled in Africa. And Patton knew reputations would not save it, tonight, alone. He was summoned to fix the disaster, not with speeches, but with action, immediately. Within days officers would fall under scrutiny, some relieved publicly. Others sent home, disgraced. Patton believed failure flowed from leadership. And leadership could be corrected, fast, brutally. He was willing to fire his own officers, to shock the system. And restore order, quickly. This decision carried risk for Patton himself. Because failure would end his career, here, now. Yet the battlefield offered no patience. And the Axis pressed harder, every hour, relentlessly. As dawn broke, Patton prepared orders, sharpened language, and summoned commanders, immediately. Men would curse his methods later. But survival would prove him right, soon enough. What followed over 10 days reshaped an army, hardened its spine, and saved countless lives, ahead. But first Patton had to break habits, remove weak links, and accept the hatred, fully. The reckoning began at Kasserine Pass, where authority returned. And mercy retreated, briefly. On 20 February 1943. Patton arrived formally in Tunisia. Boots dusty, jaw tight, eyes judging. He toured the lines personally. Speaking little, observing everything. Absorbing fear and confusion, silently. What he saw disturbed him deeply. Officers lax, soldiers undisciplined. Command structures blurred, dangerously. Helmets were unbuckled. Weapons unclean, vehicles scattered. Small details screaming collapse, loudly. To Patton these details meant death. Because habits decide battles, not slogans, ever. He ordered immediate changes. Uniforms tightened, salutes enforced. Standards restored, without debate. Many officers bristled at the tone, calling it theatrical. Harsh, unnecessary, privately. Patton did not care, because the enemy respected only strength. Never excuses, not once. Behind closed doors he reviewed after-action reports. Tracing failure to specific names, carefully. At Kasserine, units collapsed without orders. Retreats turned to routes. Leadership vanished, entirely. Patton believed men forgive strictness. But never forgive weakness. Especially under fire, ever. On 21 February 1943. He relieved his 1st regimental commander, publicly. The message spread instantly, rank offered no shield. Reputation offered no mercy, now. Some officers begged for time, others blamed terrain, weather, or inexperience, uselessly. Patton rejected all of it, stating war offered no rehearsal. Only consequences, brutally. Each firing tightened discipline, fear mixed with respect. Sharpening focus, across the lines. Soldiers noticed changes immediately. Checkpoints tightened, patrols increased. Orders clarified, finally. Morale strangely rose, because certainty replaced confusion. And leadership returned, visibly. Patton demanded commanders lead forward, not from tents, not from maps, never. He walked the battlefield himself. Pointing positions, correcting mistakes. Absorbing risk, openly. Behind the scenes critics whispered, saying Patton was reckless. Theatrical, dangerous, again. Yet the Axis felt pressure mounting, resistance stiffened. American lines steadied, gradually. The 10 days were only beginning. and more officers would fall before rebirth fully. On 22 February 1943, Patton gathered divisional leaders inside a drafty tent and spoke plainly. He told them failure was tolerated. Excuses were not, future defeats meant removal. Without hesitation. Patton's words cut hard because men knew he meant it. And records already proved him beyond doubt. Across Tunisia, units reorganized. Battalions reassigned positions. Officers suddenly answered clearly, under scrutiny. On 23 February 1943, Patton fired another commander, citing hesitation under fire. The dismissal rippled outward, spreading fear upward, and resolve downward, simultaneously. Some veterans resented Patton deeply, feeling humiliated publicly, doubting his battlefield judgment in silence. Others welcomed clarity because orders finally matched reality. Accountability returned with confidence. Patton enforced movement discipline, banned unnecessary retreats, demanded constant reconnaissance without exception. He replaced passive leaders with aggressive colonels who pushed forward relentlessly despite losses. At the front, soldiers noticed change. Artillery responded faster. Coordination improved under pressure. The enemy sensed resistance stiffening. Probes met fire, momentum slowed. Across the sector. On 24 February 1943, Patton walked exposed ridgelines, deliberately visible. He wanted men to see him, sharing risk openly, expecting the same from commanders. Every hour mattered now, because Rommel still lurked nearby, watching weaknesses patiently. Patton believed time punished hesitation, rewarded decisiveness. Exposed cowards without mercy. The army felt reshaped already, not healed yet, but steadier than before. More firings loomed ahead, more tests waited, reputations hung thin, everywhere. The 10-day crucible tightened, forging habits fast, stripping illusions mercilessly. What followed next would prove decisive when steel met doctrine. Leadership met fire directly. On 25 February 1943, Patton faced the consequences of speed. As exhausted units pushed forward, he knew aggression carried cost, but delay invited disaster, especially here, now. Reports showed progress mixed with strain, supply lines stretched. Nerves tight, mistakes costly. Patton responded by tightening command again, firing another staff officer for hesitation. This removal shocked headquarters, because staff rarely fell first, but Patton saw rot. He believed planning failures killed men quietly. Far from gunfire, yet just as surely. Across the front, commanders adjusted quickly, knowing delay meant dismissal, not discussion. Orders grew sharper, language clearer, intent unmistakable, throughout the corps. On 26 February 1943, American patrols clashed repeatedly with Axis screens. These fights were small, brutal, and decisive, testing Patton's reforms immediately. Coordination held under pressure. Artillery answered calls faster, infantry stayed firm. Patton watched closely, measuring discipline through chaos rather than parades. Behind the lines, resentment simmered, careers ended abruptly. Friendships fractured, bitterness spreading. Patton accepted the hatred, believing history judged outcomes, not feelings, ever. He wrote letters late at night, defending decisions, knowing scrutiny awaited, soon. The army's spine stiffened daily. Fear transformed into focus, purpose sharpened. On 27 February 1943, enemy attacks faltered, meeting organized resistance. This moment mattered, because proof silenced doubt faster than speeches. Patton saw confirmation, harsh leadership worked. Accountability saved lives, undeniably. Yet the hardest test still loomed, a full Axis push against rebuilt lines. Patton warned commanders bluntly, victory depended on nerve, not numbers. The 10 days neared their peak. Pressure compressing leadership, revealing true steel. What came next would decide whether Patton's firing saved the army or destroyed it. On 28 February 1943, Patton sensed the storm approaching, before reports confirmed it. Axis forces probed harder now, testing rebuilt defenses, searching for hesitation relentlessly. Patton moved constantly, jeep bouncing between positions. Presence deliberate, message unmistakable. He demanded commanders hold ground, counterattack smartly, and communicate constantly, without fail. The army responded unevenly at first. Nerves strained, confidence fragile, discipline tested. Patton watched one sector falter, then ordered an immediate relief, without appeal. Another officer was removed, not for cowardice, but for confusion, equally deadly. This firing sent a final message: clarity mattered more than caution, always. On 1 March 1943, Axis pressure peaked. Artillery pounding American lines, fiercely. Units held, because orders were clear. Leadership present, consequences understood. Patton observed coordination working, infantry signaling guns, armor supporting advances, together. Men fought knowing retreat required permission, and excuses would not save careers. Losses still came, because war spares no one, even the prepared, ever. Yet collapse did not return, and that absence meant everything, strategically. Patton allowed no celebration, because survival was the only acceptable outcome. Behind him critics softened, quietly noting improvement, though few admitted it aloud. The 10 days of reform had hardened habits, changed instincts, reshaped expectations. On 2 March 1943, Patton finally paused, reviewing casualty lists, silently. He knew firings carried personal cost, but lives saved outweighed resentment, unquestionably. The American army had not become perfect, but it no longer bled foolishly. The enemy withdrew, probing attacks, momentum lost, opportunity slipping away. Patton's gamble appeared to work, but consequences would echo far beyond Tunisia. The reckoning moved upward next, toward politics, reputations, and history's judgment. On 3 March 1943, word of Patton's actions reached higher headquarters, stirring unease. Reports praised discipline, but criticized brutality, questioning methods, motives, and temperament. Patton understood this danger well, because generals fall faster in offices than trenches, often. He defended himself bluntly, arguing weak leadership murdered soldiers, silently, every day. Behind the scenes, Eisenhower listened carefully, balancing results against optics, reputation against reality. Patton's firings embarrassed senior officers, exposed systemic failure, and threatened careers deeply. Yet battlefield reports told a different story. Cohesion restored, lines firm, confidence returning. On 4 March 1943, Eisenhower visited the front, observing Patton's army directly. He saw salutes snap, positions held, commanders present, discipline unmistakable, everywhere. Soldiers spoke cautiously, but their steadiness revealed truth better than words. Eisenhower recognized improvement, even if Patton's style disturbed him personally. Patton pressed forward reforms, banning defeatist language, punishing pessimism, enforcing standards. Some officers adapted, others withdrew, unable to endure constant pressure. This thinning effect mattered, because resilience selected leaders faster than promotion boards. On 5 March 1943, Patton halted additional firings, believing the lesson learned. He shifted focus toward training, rehearsals, and combined arms coordination, urgently. The 10-day crucible ended quietly, without ceremony, without announcement, deliberately. Patton knew reforms only mattered if sustained. Habits must replace fear, permanently. The army emerged leaner, angrier, and far more lethal than before. Yet scars remained, resentment lingered, and Patton's reputation grew sharper, polarized. Some called him savior, others tyrant. History would weigh both. What followed next would test these changes, not in Africa, but across Europe. The question now was legacy, whether these 10 days justified the cost. On 6 March 1943, Patton turned his attention forward, beyond Tunisia, toward lessons learned. He understood victories fade quickly, but habits endure, shaping future battles decisively. Training intensified across units. Drills repeated under exhaustion. Realism enforced relentlessly. Patton demanded officers think faster, decide quicker, act harder, under pressure. The memory of Kasserine haunted every exercise. Failure used as warning, not excuse. Officers once spared now felt constant scrutiny, knowing standards never relaxed. Patton believed peace bred complacency. And complacency killed soldiers, inevitably. On 7 March 1943. After action reviews continued. Brutally honest, names named openly. Mistakes were dissected publicly. Because secrecy protected incompetence, Patton insisted. Some commanders improved rapidly, others revealed limits, self-selecting out. This filtering mattered. Because future landings required hardened leadership, not politeness. Meanwhile, enemy intelligence noted changes. Reporting Americans fought differently now, cautiously. Patton welcomed this, because reputation itself became a weapon. Shaping enemy behavior. Behind the lines letters arrived. Families asking why officers disappeared suddenly. Patton never answered personally. Believing command required distance, not explanation. Eisenhower watched carefully. Aware Patton's methods could not become universal policy. Yet he also knew without Patton, recovery after Kasserine might have failed. By mid-March, the Army prepared for new operations. Confidence cautious, discipline firm. The 10 days echoed forward, shaping Sicily plans. Leadership choices, command philosophy. Patton's firings were no longer isolated acts, but precedent, dangerous and effective. History often punishes men who act decisively, especially when others hesitate. The final judgment would come later. When memory softened, and outcomes spoke louder. Before that judgment, one more reckoning waited, beyond Patton's control. On 8 March 1943. Patton faced reflection, a rare pause between storms. He reviewed notes privately, weighing results against cost. Silently, without comfort. Patton believed command demanded moral isolation. Because doubt invited weakness, eventually. Yet he understood anger lingered, careers ended, trust fractured, wounds unseen. Across the Army, officers spoke carefully, adapting language, behavior, instincts, permanently. The fear of removal faded slowly, replaced by internal discipline, a harder thing. Patton preferred this outcome. Because self-control outlasted imposed fear, always. On 9 March 1943. Combat operations resumed aggressively, testing reforms again. Units maneuvered with precision, coordination smoother. Initiative sharper, under fire. Patton observed without interference, allowing leaders to prove themselves, independently. Failures still occurred, because war resists perfection, especially under pressure. But collapse did not return, and that distinction mattered enormously. Eisenhower received reports confirming stability. Improvement sustained, morale balanced. He accepted Patton's methods produced results, even if politically dangerous. Behind closed doors debates continued. Whether fear or inspiration built better armies. Patton rejected the debate, believing outcomes ended arguments, decisively. The Kasserine lesson spread quietly. Shaping doctrine, training manuals. Leadership culture. The American Army began shedding its early war innocence, replaced by grim realism. Patton knew future battles would test more than discipline, they would test restraint. His own temperament remained volatile, and consequences would follow him later. For now, success bought time, and time allowed growth, adaptation, survival. The 10 days faded into routine, but their imprint stayed, indelible. One final chapter remained, history's verdict on Patton's ruthless gamble. On 10 March 1943. Patton's gamble entered quiet judgment, far from gunfire. Reports circulated through Allied command, measuring performance. Losses, discipline, objectively. Numbers told one story. Cohesion improved, retreat slowed. Command clarity restored. Reputation told another, Patton labeled brutal. Brilliant, dangerous, depending on speaker. Some officers never forgave him, carrying bitterness through later campaigns, privately. Others credited him with survival, believing firing saved lives, undeniably. Patton accepted neither praise nor apology, focusing instead on preparation. He believed war rewarded readiness, not reflection, especially too early. The army moved forward, toward Sicily, toward Europe, toward larger tests. Leadership shaped in Tunisia would carry consequences across continents. On 11 March 1943, Patton wrote privately, noting discipline alone wins wars. He warned himself against pride, knowing success often breeds its own downfall. The 10 days at Kasserine became legend quietly, whispered in mess tents. Young officers learned the lesson: command meant responsibility, not rank. Higher headquarters institutionalized some reforms, softening others, cautiously. Patton's example influenced doctrine, but never fully accepted, never fully rejected. History prefers clean narratives, but this story resisted simplicity. The American army matured painfully, through fear, firings, and accountability. Patton remained a tool, not a template, valuable yet volatile. Future victories would owe something to those brutal days, though few admitted it. As Africa stabilized, attention shifted north, preparations began quietly. The final verdict awaited hindsight, shaped by survival, victory, memory. One last reflection remained, beyond numbers, beyond policy, beyond rank. On 12 March 1943, the Kasserine chapter closed. Without ceremony, without apology. Patton moved forward, because war allowed no lingering, only momentum, always. The officers he fired faded into records. Footnotes shaped by timing, circumstance, judgment. The officers who remained carried scars. Lessons etched deep, shaping future command. Patton never revisited the firings publicly, believing justification weakened authority. He accepted hatred as currency, traded willingly for effectiveness, discipline, survival. The American army that left Tunisia was not confident, but competent, and that mattered. Later victories would shine brighter, because failure once burned painfully. Patton's methods remained controversial, studied, debated. Softened, but never erased. History would struggle with the morality, weighing cruelty against consequence. Yet soldiers who lived understood something simple. Leadership costs lives when it fails. The 10 days after Kasserine saved an army, by breaking it first. Patton paid his price later, through scandal, sidelining, restraint imposed. But in that moment, when collapse threatened everything, decisiveness mattered more than comfort. The war demanded hard men, harder choices, and acceptance of blame. Patton embodied that truth, for better and worse, without retreat. In the end, the army survived, adapted, and advanced across continents. Kasserine Pass became warning, not weakness, scar turned strength. And history remembered Patton not as kind, but as necessary, then. Because sometimes salvation comes not through mercy, but through resolve.